All right, we're going to go ahead and start maybe in a couple minutes. People are still joining in, so we'll give them 1 to 2 minutes just to get all set up and get their system running before we sign in, before we get started. But thanks everyone for joining. Seeing already a lot of people joining in just at the top of the hour, which is nice to see a lot of people on time. So that's good to see.
Seeing people from all over the world joining in.
I know, that's great. It's great.
Vancouver, Idaho, Mexico. I think I see some folks from California.
Awesome.
San Diego, Iowa.
Tunisia, Paris. Oh, this is awesome.
Tunisia. This is awesome.
Excellent, thanks, guys, for staying up a little late. I think it's probably pretty late in Paris at this time.
Yeah. Dallas.
Cali.
This is a good way to connect from all around the world.
Yeah. Cool. I like it. South Africa. Maybe in a couple of minutes we'll have the whole. We'll have most of the globe.
Kenya.
Nice. Great. We're gonna start in about maybe another 30 seconds to a minute. It looks like quite a few people have joined, so we're going to plan to start in about, I guess, 30 seconds to a minute. We can start.
Sounds good. We have folks here from Mumbai, Paris, San Francisco, Yemen joining. Welcome, everybody.
All right. I think we can get started with quite a few people who've already joined, and people can continue to join, I guess, in the next couple of minutes as they get their stuff set up. And thanks for the people joining in where it's a little late. So as some of you may know, this was originally an in-person event in San Francisco that we had to reschedule to an online webinar given the unfortunate outbreak of COVID-19 and the coronavirus. So we've switched this to a webinar. We appreciate everyone joining and being flexible to this and join the webinar. We are going to try to keep this the presentations really short so we can focus a lot on the Q&A and talk about a lot of the marketing questions you guys already asked us on earlier. So you can continue to ask questions via the chat. So we do want to focus a lot on making this interactive and a little more engaging than the standard webinar. So we're going to only talk for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then the rest will be Q&A. To get started, I want to focus. I'm Randy from Outgrow, and I'm going to talk a bit about some strategies to supercharge marketing in 2020 and how to improve demand generation. So the first thing that we get asked a lot about is how do we improve conversion? And the standard ways most marketers think about that today is they think about how do we improve our landing pages, our ebooks, our blog posts, etc. And that's kind of a necessary but not sufficient way to look at it. You know, these are table stakes. These are things everyone already has. But in today's world, you kind of have to take one more step beyond that because everyone's already doing these steps to improve their conversion rates. And so one of the key strategies and key methods to distinguish yourself is to build more personalized and interactive tools that allow you to add more value to the customer, but at the same time, improve your conversion rate. So I want to dig deep into specific examples on how companies go about improving their conversion rates, so you can get some ideas on how this actually applies, real world applications. So my first example is Amazon, which I'm sure many of you have already heard many times. So I'll keep this brief, but the key example here is that when you go onto Amazon, the products that you see are personalized for your specific use case, based on your browsing history and purchase history. So you're not seeing the same page that anyone else sees. And that personalization that they provide to all their customers, you don't have to pay to get the personalized product recommendation. They provide that for free to everyone because they want to help you find what's relevant to you. And at the same time, that improves their conversion rates because they're not showing you products that are irrelevant. So that's kind of a quick overview on the Amazon use case. For IKEA, so IKEA is a furniture store, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, and their focus is how do we help people buy furniture online. And one of the key bottlenecks is when you're buying furniture online is you don't know how the piece of furniture is going to fit within the context of your apartment, how the color contrast will work, and the size, how the size is going to kind of play out in your room. So what they decided to do was they created an iPad application, which is an augmented reality application, meaning you augment your empty room with the furniture virtually, and it shows you how that piece of furniture appears within the context of the room. And what's cool about this is that it's a free tool that anyone can use. So you don't have to prove that you were an IKEA customer, but it builds some additional brand awareness, and it helps people on that buying journey while they're purchasing online. And so this is a really cool kind of tool that they've built that has done very well for them. Okay. Nike is probably my favorite example because Nike has been doing this for about 8 years. They've been building tools digital tools for free for all their customers and for non-customers to engage them. And they want to engage athletes. They want to engage runners. They want to engage people in various sports. And what they've decided to do was build applications to help people compete in terms of how many miles have you run, to help people track their miles. They created different communities and events, and they also have apps for workouts, which is doing very well now because most people are at home. They have home workout routines as well, where you can basically have an instructor go through a 5-minute or 10-minute or 20-minute kind of training session. And these have done so well for them that they've computed the exact lift in customer lifetime value as a result of these applications. So they look at lift in CLV of existing customers. So how much, usually let's say customers spend X, how much more do those customers spend if they engage with our tools? So that's a lift in CLV. And then the other analytics they look at is what are the non-customers, so the customers, they have no lifetime value because they're not even customers, what is the increase in conversion rate of the non-customers to customers? And once they analyzed those numbers, they quickly saw that this was a very powerful kind of use case for them. And so this became a core focus for their business. And the reason I love this example is because they're so numbers driven and analytics driven that they kind of know how valuable these types of free tools are for their marketing and for their customer engagement. Okay, my last example is a B2B example, and this is an example of a mobile app cost calculator. So I'm sure many of you know that when you're building a mobile app, there's a lot of questions, and the challenge is how do you know how much it costs, and how do you understand the price variables? Like how does price change as a function of the location of the development team, as a function of the feature set that you're trying to build? And so there's a lot of questions that come up. And so here, this is a tool, a mobile app cost calculator tool, where you can see the price variation by geography, and you can see the price variation by feature set. And so that it gives you a much better understanding of how this estimate is derived and which variables you can play with based on your budget. And so what's really cool here is not just to say, oh, this is the estimate, but to look at it from both sides. So first, from the customer side, the customer has been educated significantly, actually, on how prices work, on how different variables and features that they need impact their price. But at the same time, your own team gets a highly qualified lead who understands the price, who's already educated, and who's already submitted an overview of what they're looking to build. And so you get the qualification on your end, and they get a lot more value on their end. And this is all done within a couple minutes on this tool. And so this is a great use case for interactive tools. And so the main question we get is, this is all great. How do we go about building these tools? And so there are kind of a few options. The first is if you have an in-house development team, you can use them. Sometimes, of course, they're usually overworked. And so most companies will either go to an outsourced team or a SaaS tool. And so I'm, full disclosure, I'm part of the Outgrow team. So I'm biased. I definitely think the SaaS tool makes things easier and faster to build because it's kind of drag and drop and self-service. But that said, it's important for you to see what's best for your business and for your context and use case. So that kind of gives you a sense of how to go about building them. I do want people to share industries and live examples that they're interested in via chat, so we can cover ideas relevant to their specific businesses. But we'll do that later in the Q&A. And so, but the main premise of what we've tried to highlight here is that customers need to be engaged with and not sold to. And so that's the key point that you want to highlight is you focus on how you engage them and add value to them. And I'm going to pass it off now to Vivek, who's going to talk in detail about different ways to engage customers.
Thanks so much. And yeah, to introduce myself, I'm Vivek Asija. I run product marketing for our Fresh Dust product line at Freshworks. And just to sort of riff a little bit on what Randy was saying about engagement, when you think about demand gen in 2020 and beyond, it really is about having an authentic and empathetic type of engagement with prospects and existing customers. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some specific ways to do that. But first, just to level set, where are we today in the buyer journey? One way of looking at it is that buyers are sort of all over the place. They go from your website to your mobile app, they email you, they may be chatting, they're going to your Facebook profile, they're perhaps still phoning or walking in store and having a certain type of an experience, but they're going back and forth across all these different channels and experiencing engagement with your brand in different ways. That's a huge challenge as customers are demanding. They want what they want when they want it. They have a lot of choices. And especially in 2020 and beyond, they're very hard to please. So when you're faced with this as a business is trying to generate demand, how do you deal with that? So one way to handle it is to look at messaging. This is a new way that businesses are engaging with customers, and in general, people are moving away from sort of traditional channels like phone and moving towards messaging to platforms like WhatsApp, WeChat, Facebook Messenger. They are looking at real-time conversations with the brands that they love, and they are able to get great engagement that way, which is very similar to how they're getting engaged with their friends and family over Instagram, Facebook, via text, via WhatsApp, and so on. So what's happening is our personal and our consumer lives and our professional lives are all sort of like melding together in terms of how we use consumer technology, how we purchase stuff when we're buying it, or how we research a purchase, and then also even how we work. And so these worlds are all colliding. And the message there is that there's an opportunity to engage your customer base and to try new ways of interacting with them over messaging, and also, as you'll see later in this presentation, how to automate that as well. So in fact, right now, one stat that I'd love to share with you is that 1 in 2 customers are more likely to do business with companies that can directly message them and have that kind of empathetic and authentic experience. In the next few slides, what I'm going to talk about is the messaging experience and also the automations that you can put in place to with chatbots, which extend that messaging and conversational experience that people are starting to adopt in 3 different ways. And the first would be proactive messaging. The second is improving the overall messaging experience. And the third is with chatbot automations. So these are 3 very specific things you can do for demand gen to help reach out when purchase intent is at its highest. So first and foremost, customers and prospects are looking for that kind of conversational experience. And if you look at both website and mobile app, which are just two of the channels that you're responsible for in terms of campaigns. If you look at just from a website perspective, if someone's on your website, then chances are they're there for one of three reasons. Starting from the bottom, 11% are looking for more details, like simply hours of like office hours, location, contact info. 26% are probably comparing prices between you and a competitor, but 45% in general, which is that top of funnel, are looking for your product and service. And so with messaging and with automated chatbots, you can do a lot more to engage them and convert them. So with chatbots, you can take the messaging experience of live messaging on WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger and apply that from an automated chatbot perspective. So you can connect with prospects 24/7, even when you're not there or anyone is in the office. It's kind of like the 24/7 automated salesperson or concierge or greeter, if you will, that's always there to represent your very best sales agent. So this gives you an opportunity to convert website traffic, to book more meetings, to shorten sales cycles. There's a lot of really great ways in which you can trigger a chatbot response based on user behavior on a website. So if you haven't looked at either messaging or automated chatbots, have a look at that. The next experience is, especially for marketers, the last thing we need is yet another technology to manage in our digital marketing portfolio. So as a marketer, it's really important to be able to build your own bot flows without having to code. So there are a number of providers that provide simple workflows where you can drive new chatbot experiences without having to code. And so that's really something to be looking for. Even a marketer can do it. Third, the ability to create chatbot automation. So try not to wait for people to reach out to you. When you're not talking to someone face-to-face or having an online experience with them where you're co-browsing, try to sort of put proactive chatbot campaigns to work for you in an automated way where you're able to segment the audience in a granular way based on how they self-identify in terms of what information you can collect on them through the whole chatbot and conversational experience, because you can kind of avoid the whole lead collection kind of form experience and ask questions back and forth to the prospect in an automated way that gets those answers and engages them. And then also based on their behavior, what they're clicking on, what kinds of conversational flows you can create. Based on that, you can send them automated responses based on value, perhaps things that they've done in the shopping cart. Maybe they've looked at a bunch of different items, and based on that kind of behavior, you can create different kinds of bot flow experiences. So that gives you the opportunity to be super proactive about it as well. These are just three things to think about for demand gen in 2020. I want to leave you with one experience of one of our customers. This is a Freshdesk and Freshchat customer. In other words, they use our support and help desk product, which is called Freshdesk, for omni-channel customer service and support. And then they use Freshchat as well, which is not only for support, but also for sales. So one of the things I like to say is the support moment in 2020 and beyond is also the sales moment. So it's also kind of, I think, very important to not only look singularly at sales and demand gen, but also look at support, because a lot of your existing customers can easily be upsold from a support experience or cross-sold. And increasingly, that's what what brands are looking forward to, because it's obviously a lot less expensive to convert an existing customer than it is to find new ones. So think about that as well in terms of demand gen tactics for 2020, how to marry your support experience with your sales experience. And so that support moment can be the sales moment in the sense that you can use chat. You can use chat both on your e-commerce website as well as in your support experience. So Poundit is a Filipino e-commerce customer of ours, and they offer tech gadgets for sale on their website. So they had an issue where for them, the holy grail as an e-commerce company was to provide a personalized engagement experience. and they wanted to convert more visits to sales. The stumbling block they were running into was they had a low conversion rate through email of only about 2%. And then their legacy live chat solution was only converting 6%. And there were a number of missed chats by team members when they were out of the office. There was a relatively low response rate on marketing campaigns, but when they adopted Fresh Chat, our chat and messaging product, they were able to deliver a much more engaging conversational messaging experience. They were able to provide bot flows and create structured interactions through that codeless bot builder for kind of do-it-yourself marketing-driven type of customer engagement experience. And when I say marketing driven, I mean marketing department driven without any IT or coding involvement. And they were able to really simplify agent workflows as well, make it easy for them to use this and provide a set of proactive messaging campaigns with a Shopify as well as a Freshworks integration, both on the desk side for support as well as on the sales side for Fresh Chat. So this helped them increase the chat to conversion rate by 50%. It drove missed chats down to 0. And it also increased their response on campaigns by 50%. So this was very helpful from a demand gen perspective for this e-commerce retailer in the Philippines. I'd invite you to take a look at both freshdesk.com and freshchat.com at some of these technologies. And of course, Outgrow.co as well, our partner, to think about ways that these solutions can come together for you. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Randy to talk about that specific Outgrow and Fresh Chat integration.
Great. Thanks a lot, Vivek, for going over that part. So a couple of things I wanted to highlight was the importance of, if you're using interactive tools and you're using chat, or if you're using, if you have content and chat, the key thing is how they work together. So you don't want to ask on chat questions that you already have the information for from a lead gen form from an interactive tool. And so you want these systems to work together. And so one of the key things here is passing the data automatically. So this is an example from how you pass data from our interactive tool to the chat tool that Vivek was talking about. And so here you want to make sure all the fields that you have, it could be the questions that are being asked on the tool, the answers, the source, all the information is automatically getting passed on. So when the chatbot or live chat is interacting with that user, that information is already there, and they don't have to ask that same question twice. So that's the first thing that's important. The second thing that we recommend is when you have a tool, at the end of the tool or during the tool, you're going to have a call to action, and so that call to action, in some cases, depending on the flow you've designed, is going to ask someone to talk to a live chat person or talk to the chat or interact with the chatbot. In that case, it is important, again, first to sync all the data, but to make the trigger easy. And that means when they click the CTA button, you want to automatically trigger the message you want to send and automatically open the either live chat or chatbot. And so this handoff, which may appear like a trivial, simple thing, is actually very important because it can have a drastic impact on conversion rates and engagement. Because if you tell someone, oh, like go click on this chat on the bottom right, that might be a bit harder than them to just, you have a big CTA button right there that's saying, okay, great, you've reached this flow, click here, and then to talk to a live chat person or to interact with the chatbot, and then you can move them right away. So having these button triggers helps as well with making the tools that you have and the chat kind of work together in a more seamless way and having good handoffs. So that actually covers most of the things that we wanted to highlight when it comes to the presentation. So as we promised, we kept the presentation short. We're going to focus now the remainder of the next 20 minutes on the Q&A part and really focus on questions that people have. And so one of the key questions we get is like ideas. And so I see a couple of questions around ideas already coming in through the chat. And so for how to come up with ideas for tools, so like the Nike idea or the Amazon idea that we spoke about earlier, one of the best ways is to look at kind of the questions you're getting from your sales and support team and kind of behavior your most successful customers have that you want to kind of incentivize, and what types of tools can you do to encourage people to have those types of behaviors. So I'm going to start with the question on SaaS, and then the question on healthcare. So for SaaS, the key things to think about is so you have either a monthly or annual fee that you're charging, and you have some value that people are deriving from your SaaS tool. So that value could be that by using your tool, you save salespeople, a few hours a week. And so what I would do is I would create a savings calculator. How much time would you save by using our software? How much time will your salespeople save? And then you can multiply that across all the salespeople, and you can come up with a calculator that shows the amount of time savings and the relevant cost savings by using the tool. And then you can compare that to the cost of your tool and show that there's a drastic savings. And you can even then do a secondary ROI calculator, which shows the ROI. So if you look at the cost of the savings versus the cost of the tool, you can see the return on your investment by investing in a tool like this. You can do a lot of other things around in SaaS. Another common thing is knowledge tests, because some people aren't aware of the drawbacks of their current systems or processes. You can help them by educating them through a knowledge test. Another common thing that we see in SaaS is risk assessment. So what is the risk if you have a security software SaaS tool and you're engaging with people? You might want to create a risk assessment that helps people understand the risk of not properly handling or taking into account certain security vulnerabilities that may arise over time. So there's a ton of content that can be done with SaaS, and it's kind of a great use case in general. Another common last one for SaaS. Sorry, I can go on for a while about this, but last one for SaaS, and then I'll move to healthcare, and then I'll try to get to a couple other questions as well. The question about the last one for SaaS is a industry assessment, kind of saying like, how do you compare to others in your industry when it comes to sales processes, marketing processes. You can obviously focus the segment that you focus on based on your industry. So if you're in HR software, you could talk about their payroll and their healthcare benefits, etc. So that kind of gives you a sense for ideas that you can do in SaaS. Healthcare. So healthcare is broad. I mean, there's a lot of different areas within healthcare, but let's kind of try to pick that apart and start with, let's say, hospitals and clinics. So what hospitals and clinics want to do is they first want to help educate people about certain symptoms. So they could be knowledge tests about, vaccines that they should have, knowledge tests about what to do in certain cases if you have certain symptoms. Now with COVID, you can do a ton of things around should you go into the hospital? Do you need ICU? What are the risks of exposing other people to you? Like, why is educating people about the quarantine by kind of doing a knowledge test? And then a lot of healthcare is going to be risk assessments around what is your risk of a heart attack? What is your risk of developing diabetes? Are you a pre-diabetic? Things like that can be popular with risk assessments. There's a broad range there, and then within other fields, I would also do like within pharma. I could do a comparison tool around. Okay, so you have a certain illness. Let's say you have a bacterial infection. So it's like, should you take antibiotics? And then you can have what type of antibiotics make the most sense. So you can look at the disease, look at the type of symptoms, and you can say, okay, based on the analysis, these are the types of antibiotics that might make sense. Speak with a doctor here to see if this is the right thing for you to do. And so you can help with triage there, and you can also help a lot with like cost calculators for pharma to help people compare the various drug medications in terms of pricing. So a lot of people might say, oh, like I need a diabetes drug, or I need this I need an EpiPen, or whatever you might need. And then you look at the pricing, and you can help show a comparison calculator that helps people better understand how the various drug options vary in pricing. Okay, so Nike, now they crunch to come up with those. Okay, so for Nike, what they did was they basically thought about the customer journey and where they want to be involved. And so Nike thinks of themselves a lot more than just a company that sells shoes, as you know from their marketing. They want to really be involved in the whole customer journey. And so what they think about is what are the things people do before and after they buy the shoes, which is just one step that they're involved in. And so they thought about, well, after, the people who buy the shoes are runners, they're athletes, they play certain sports, they want to train, they might want to compete with other people, they might want a group that is around their level that they can challenge each other. And so they created all these apps as an experimentation initially, and then later on they provided it for free. And as the mobile app store grew, they were able to identify and see that it grew with them. And so that's kind of an answer to that question around what they did. And the analytics they focused on was kind of CLV, what is the customer lifetime value of our customer, of our existing customer, and how does that customer lifetime value change once they download the app. And so the way you do that is you look at the lifetime value of the customer, which would be the revenue you generate from the customer minus the cost, the marginal cost of that customer, gives you that customer lifetime value. And then once you have the customer lifetime value, you can see what is the delta between customer lifetime value of the customer, of the average customer before they download the app, and then the ones who download the app, how does that change in CLV happen? And then you can look at that delta, and then you can compare that to the cost of the app. And then you can do something similar for non-customers, because their CLV there is 0, and then once they become a customer, the CLV goes positive, and you can look at the delta there. But that's another good question. Okay, real estate. So I'll only take one more after this because we can. I don't want to spend the whole time going through examples on industries, but I appreciate all the questions. So for real estate, the most common, of course, that you've all seen is the mortgage calculator. So what's the monthly rate on my mortgage? What's the interest rate that I can get on the mortgage given current climates and the Fed funds rate, et cetera, LIBOR rates, depending if you're international. Another one is, should I refinance my mortgage if you already have one? And then a lot around home buying. This is for residential. I don't know if you meant residential or commercial, but for residential, you would do like, should I buy a home? What type of home should I buy? And then and then you can kind of see, okay, well, what's your salary? What's your credit score? What's your income, salary, etc. And then you can ask them, what type of home are you looking for? What size of your family do you have? And what type of neighborhood do you want to live in? If you have young kids and you're focused on school, etc., etc. And then you can recommend to them a relevant home or a relevant neighborhood. For commercial, there's a lot of things that can be done around educating people about office leases, what types of terms are you looking for, the length of the office lease, the square footage, the growth of the company, and then you can kind of do things similar within if it's hotel or if it's retail. You can kind of do things focused on cost and savings and interest rates, and then you can do things focused on recommendations, like what's relevant, what types of properties would be relevant. Okay, and then let's see here. I'll have one more before we end it. Okay, so so this last question that I'll take, and then I'll hand it over to Vivek to do the last set of his set of questions. So app products that are advertised by word of mouth. So in that case, I would try to create contests and giveaways to incentivize people to share what they've given. So you might say, okay, if you can do, when you do a contest, there's a few mechanisms by which you can run a contest. So one way is to say, if you share it with your audience, you'll get some benefit. Okay. Another way to say it is if, based on the number of clicks post share, so you can share it with your audience, and the number of people that click on that link that you provide is tracked, and then you can provide benefits based on the number of clicks that's done. And then the third level is to do it based on revenue generated or signups generated. So it's not just the click on the link that you share, but the people that actually sign up, post, or the people that pay. And so you can kind of create these different levels of contests, different types of contests, to incentivize people to share and refer traffic to the app. I'm talking at a high level because I don't know the specifics of the app or product, given the question, but that's kind of a good way to promote more word of mouth. All right, I'm gonna have to hold off on questions for now and then hand it over to Vivek to go into a few of the other questions we saw previously. We've got a lot of questions also via email prior. So Vivek can kind of handle that, and then I don't think we'll have any more time afterwards. So feel free to continue to send questions, and we might try to cover them via email if possible.
Randy, do we have those questions queued up on a slide?
Sure, yeah. So let me
Awesome.
tee that up for you here.
Right, wonderful, thank you. Well, I think I'll go to number 2 first, because I think that's what's on everybody's mind right now. This is a moment in history that I think is basically unparalleled for at least over 100 years, probably a once in a century moment. Many marketers right now are asking, okay, how can we continue to do business during this crisis, and how should we be marketing to people when they're working from home? Um, I think every marketer is got their own kind of nuanced response to this based on their own competitive dynamics and what industries they're in. But the general sense that I'm seeing amongst my colleagues and our industry in general is this is almost really not the time to be marketing. This is a kind of life or death situation for literally hundreds of thousands of people around the world. This is one of the only moments in my life I can even think of in which humanity has been tied together, no matter what your nationality, no matter what country you live in. And we're all in this together as a human race. And I think now more than ever, this is really about a time for caring and empathy, and really trying to help one another and to extend a helping hand as marketers as well. So to the extent that some companies are sort of flubbing this and turning this into a kind of marketing moment, I think that's probably not my advice. I mean, I think that this is more of a moment, again, of engagement, to my earlier set of points in this discussion, and support and authenticity and empathy. This is all about caring and being real, being human first, and a marketer second. So my advice on this is, if you have a product or service that can help people, then offer help and offer support and offer a helping hand to the world at large. I think Zoom has done an incredible job of this. They're a very good example. Everybody now is relying on Zoom and other types of virtual meeting services to connect with their coworkers and to maintain some level of productivity. I would say that they're doing the right thing. So to the extent that you can be philanthropic and you can extend your product or service to nonprofits and to schools and to children in need and others in our communities that could use the help, then I really wholeheartedly support that. And I think all of us should do our part. The world will come back to normal. It may take a few days, few weeks, maybe even longer. It will happen. The markets will come back, and all of us will bounce back again. And I'm certain that will happen. And there'll be a time for our traditional marketing tactics. But if there's a moment to learn the lesson of engagement, I think now is that moment. And I think in general, in 2020 and beyond, for demand gen and just doing business in general, it's all about authentic engagement. What we say at Freshworks is building customers for life by having an honest, true kind of relationship with them and meeting them where they are on their terms, and to kind of not necessarily be worrying about your own terms. So that's actually, I think, a good segue into point number 1, retention. How do we best retain customers in 2020? Retention is all about real long-term partnerships and relationships with your customers, and delivering value in a way that's palpable to them. Not just white glove service per se. So what I'm not saying is, trying to have like this kind of 5-star or 7-star type of experience, although that's great if that is, workable in your business model, but it's honing in on a kind of long-term and constant and consistent type of engagement. So at least for us at Freshworks, what we want to do every day is build customers for life by delivering great software products, by delivering great services and implementation support, and continuing to innovate and build more good stuff and pull that out to market. And we let that stand for itself. and hopefully that drives retention. So those are some of the ways that we think about retention. And I think in terms of optimizing your content marketing, I would just try to avoid gimmicks. And my experience over the last 20 some plus years of being a marketer and in sales and marketing has been that people really like short, to the point, easily scannable content. And I think our attention spans in general have gotten more and more compressed. So optimizing for brevity, headlines, especially for business executives, so they can quickly grasp what you're trying to say, and to do it in an entertaining and engaging way. I think that's what we're all trying to do. So those are some thoughts from me, for what it's worth. Happy to take the conversation offline. You can email me at vivek.asija@freshworks.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. My profile URL is at the beginning of the deck. And also you can certainly reach us out at Freshworks as well by going to freshworks.com.
Great, awesome. So I think what we'll do is we will end the kind of webinar, the live webinar now, and then you can feel free to continue to email in any questions to Vivek or to myself. You know, if we weren't able to get to, I know we weren't able to get to all questions, you can send, if you want to get personalized ideas, you can email questions@outgrow.co, and we can help with that as well. So you can feel free to email us, and we can give personalized ideas for that. And then we can go from there. But I really appreciate everyone joining, and feel free to email us with any questions. Thanks a lot for taking the time, and stay safe, and enjoy the work from home period right now. Hopefully it turns around soon. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you.